Title: At my brother's wedding, the best man, wife's lover, suddenly pointed at me and laughed into the microphone. "Everyone, here's my divorced brother and his broke little girl. Anyone want to date him?" The guests laughed, and my father added, "Let's start the bidding at $50, shall we?" As my daughter began to cry, I reached for my pocket. Someone in the crowd slowly stood up. Chapter 1: The invitation I almost ignored. I never wanted to come. The ivory envelope with gold calligraphy had sat unopened on my kitchen counter for 2 weeks. It smelled faintly of expensive cologne and entitlement, just like my brother Evan. "Mr. and Miss Dawson are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Evan Dawson and Camille Gray," it read when I finally opened it. "No, we'd love to have you there." No personal note, just pure formality. It felt less like an invitation and more like a reminder. "You're not part of this family anymore, but here's your seat at the back just to rub it in." But I went anyway. For my daughter, Emma. She was 11, too young to understand the layers of betrayal, the politics, the whispered insults disguised as jokes. But she knew she had cousins, an uncle, a grandfather, and a mother who'd left us both, then ran straight into my brother's arms. Yes, Evan's best man, Tyler, was also my ex-wife's lover. And their little secret? Everyone in my family had known before I did. But today wasn't about me, or them. Emma wore her favorite yellow dress, hair in curls, clutching the small present she'd insisted on bringing. "For Uncle Evan," she said sweetly. And so we went. We walked into the venue together, her smile radiant, mine practiced. I tried to tell myself we'd just sit quietly, eat dinner, say congratulations, and leave. But I should have known. People like Evan don't just want to win, they want to humiliate you along the way. Chapter 2: The toast that burned everything. The venue was extravagant. Marble pillars, imported orchids, and chandeliers so bright they made you forget how cold the people inside could be. Emma held my hand tighter as we entered the reception hall. Every eye that turned our way seemed to linger, not in welcome, but in amusement. Whispers followed us like shadows. I spotted my parents near the head table. My mother's face tightened the moment she saw me, like I was an inconvenient footnote in the fairy tale they were living. My father didn't even nod, just turned to refill his champagne glass. We were seated at table 18, far from the center near the exit, between an elderly aunt and a vendor Evan had clearly forgotten to tip. But Emma didn't mind. She was too busy admiring the cake and the flowers and the violinist playing soft classics in the background. That was all that mattered to me. Her smile. Then came the moment that shifted everything. The lights dimmed, glasses clinked. A spotlight landed on the head table. Tyler, the best man and the man my ex-wife had chosen over me, stood holding the mic with a smirk. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, swaying slightly with the confidence only someone arrogant or drunk could muster. "I've known Evan for years, and I've seen him conquer the world, but today I've also seen him do the impossible. He got married and willingly signed a prenup." Laughter. He let it die down before continuing. "And speaking of miracles, look who showed up." The mic turned toward our table. The spotlight followed. "Everyone, say hi to my divorced brother and his broke little girl. Anyone want to date him? He's available, discounted." The room erupted in laughter. It was cruel, loud, merciless. And then, my father raised his glass and chuckled into his mic. "Let's start the bidding at $50, shall we?" That's when I heard it, the sound that shattered me. Emma, my daughter, was crying, her head bowed, cheeks red, tiny hands trembling in her lap. I reached for her instinctively, but then I paused. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket, because this was no longer just a wedding. This was war, and someone in the crowd was standing up. Chapter 3: The Guest. they didn't expect. The room fell into a hush as the figure stood. At first, no one recognized him, dressed in a charcoal suit, no tie, posture like a blade. But when he took a step forward, the silence deepened. It was Mr. Grayson Wells, Chief Executive Officer of Wells Tech Industries, one of the most feared corporate negotiators in the country, the man whose name alone shifted markets, and more importantly, my mentor, investor, and friend. Evan's smirk twitched. My father's glass froze halfway to his lips. Mr. Wells didn't look at them. He looked straight at Emma, who was still wiping her tears with trembling fingers. He walked up to her gently. "Miss Emma," he said softly, offering her a handkerchief, "anyone who dares humiliate your father in public like this has no idea who they're dealing with." He turned to face the crowd. "Good evening," he said, now taking the mic from the shocked event host. "I wasn't planning to speak, but I believe now's the perfect moment to address something more meaningful than overpriced vows and undercooked steak." Nervous laughter rippled through the room. He continued, "For those of you who don't know, this man," he pointed to me, "is the reason Wells Tech's newest green energy division even exists. While his ex-wife and family were mocking him, he was silently building a future that now powers over 400,000 homes." Gasps. A few murmurs. Someone dropped a fork. "But more than that," he added, turning slightly. "He's the kind of man who raises a child with grace, not greed. Dignity, not dollars. And while your family laughed at him, he was busy becoming a partner in one of the biggest tech buyouts in state history." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. Inside it was a contract, marked with both our signatures and the Wells Tech corporate seal. I didn't need to say a word. Mr. Wells was doing it for me. "This man," he continued, raising the contract high, "is now worth more than everyone on this guest list combined." And he still showed up, still smiled, still kept his daughter calm, until your little circus act tried to crush her spirit. He paused, letting the weight of that truth sink in. "I won't stay for dessert, but before I go," he handed the mic back to the stunned host and turned to me, placing a firm hand on my shoulder. "It's time." I nodded, and as I walked toward the stage, my father stumbled to stand, red-faced. My brother's bride was whispering urgently to her mother. Tyler, the best man, looked like he'd seen a ghost. I took a deep breath and opened the small velvet box I had brought. Inside was a USB drive. I plugged it into the projector behind the DJ booth and said calmly into the mic, "Let's show the real slideshow, shall we?" Chapter 4. The USB drive that destroyed the illusion. The projector clicked to life. The screen behind the newlyweds, still frozen in awkward smiles, flickered, and the first image appeared. A photo, not of me, not of Emma, but of Tyler, the best man, shirtless, tangled in sheets, with my ex-wife, their faces visible, unmistakable, time-stamped, geotagged, several dates, several cities. The crowd gasped, but that was just the beginning. Slide 2. Tyler entering a hotel suite. My wife already inside in lingerie. Slide 3. A screenshot of a message thread. Tyler, "Don't worry, he still thinks we're just friends. Idiot even asked me to be his best man." Slide 4. A paternity test. Proof that Emma, my daughter, was biologically mine, despite the rumors they'd tried to circulate that I wasn't her real father. The slideshow continued. A voice recording next. I'd boosted the audio. Tyler and my ex-wife, drunk and laughing. Tyler, "He's gonna sit in the back of the wedding like a sad little loser. Man doesn't even know his family is done with him." My ex-wife, "Let him watch us from the corner where he belongs. He'll probably cry, and my sister will get it on video." The room was no longer silent. It was buzzing with rage. Whispers, gasps, phones recording. My father tried to unplug the system, but Mr. Wells blocked him. "I wouldn't," he said coldly. "Touch that cable and I'll pull funding from your son's mortgage bank. Believe me, I can." My brother, now sweating through his tux, stood up. "Turn it off," he barked. But I wasn't done, because the next slide, emails from my brother to my ex-wife, discussing how to leverage me into signing over our late mother's lake house. "Convince him he's nothing," one line read. "Shame him publicly at my wedding if you have to. Then he'll fold. He always does." Slide after slide exposed their lies, their cruelty, their greed. My ex-mother-in-law fainted, literally. Emma clutched my hand, now brave, standing tall beside me. And then, one final slide, a photo of me and Mr. Wells standing on the balcony of my new penthouse suite. Captioned, "You thought I was down, but I was rebuilding. And now, I'm free, and you're all exposed." Chapter 5. The Aftermath and the Walkout. That shook the wedding silence returned to the ballroom, but not the peaceful kind. This was the kind of silence that falls after a bomb drops. People sat stiff, uncomfortable in their suits and dresses, unsure whether to look at me, at my daughter, or the burning embarrassment smeared across my brother's and Tyler's faces. Emma leaned in and whispered, "Daddy, can we go now?" I looked at her and smiled softly. "Not yet, sweetheart. You deserve to see what respect looks like." I stepped forward toward the stage, where my brother still stood, trying to mask the collapse of his world behind clenched teeth. "To the guests," I said into the mic, my voice calm but unshakable. "I sincerely apologize for the interruption, but after being mocked, ridiculed, and lied about in front of my child, I figured the truth deserved some stage time too." I turned toward my brother. "You once said I always liked staying in the background. That's true. I stayed in the background while you stole from me, while you slept with my wife, while you made jokes about me behind my back, while you tried to break a little girl's spirit, but not anymore." I gestured toward Mr. Wells, who gave a small nod. "You see, I sold my tech firm last year," I continued. "Not that any of you asked how I was doing. I'm not broke, I'm retired. The lake house? Signed into a private trust for my daughter. My ex-wife? Now being sued for defamation, and that recording you all heard? Admissible evidence." Tyler opened his mouth, maybe to object, maybe to beg, but I held up a finger. "I wouldn't," I said. "This mic records." The crowd stirred. Some guests quietly got up and began leaving, embarrassed to have been part of the cruelty. A few murmured apologies to me as they passed, but I wasn't done yet. I faced my father. "You laughed. You said $50 for me and my daughter. You, of all people, should have known better. I may have been silent, but I never stopped watching. And now everyone's seen who you really are." He tried to wave it off like a joke. "Come on, son. It was just—" "Don't call me son," I said firmly. "From this day forward, you are not family to me. Neither of you are." I looked at my daughter and extended my hand. "Let's go." We walked down the center aisle, hand in hand, past gasps and lowered eyes. But just before I reached the doors, I turned one last time. "Oh, and brother," I called out. "You might want to talk to your bride. I think she should know about the third woman you've been sleeping with." His face drained of all color. His new wife's face twisted into confusion, then horror. And with that, we walked out. Chapter 6. The Final Blow. What happened months later? 3 months passed. Autumn had begun to roll in, painting the trees in shades of orange and gold. Emma and I had settled into our quiet lakeside home, far from the city, far from the noise. She was doing better now, happier, safe, healing. But the fallout from that wedding was far from over. It started with a headline: CEO caught in scandal. Wedding audio leak sparks shareholder investigation. Apparently, the mic had been recording. A friend who worked for the event staff had discreetly uploaded the entire confrontation. The clip went viral. Millions watched my daughter cry. Millions heard the slurs, the laughter, the mockery, and the silence that followed as I tore them all down with calm precision. My father's company tanked. Investors withdrew. PR firms dropped them. Lawsuits followed. The board forced him to resign within weeks. My brother tried to lay low, but when news of his affairs surfaced, so did his wife's divorce petition, citing fraud and emotional abuse. She took half his assets and moved to Europe. Tyler? Fired. His workplace didn't appreciate being associated with a man who mocked a child. Turns out he'd been embezzling funds anyway, so now he faced criminal charges. And my ex-wife? Oh, she tried to apologize. Dozens of voicemails, letters, even a visit to my office, but security turned her away. When the courts ruled in my favor and granted me full custody, she broke down in the hallway and screamed, "You've ruined me!" I didn't respond, just held my daughter's hand and walked away. A few weeks later, I received an email from a well-known speaker agency. "We saw the clip. We think your story of dignity, quiet strength, and standing up for what's right needs to be heard. Would you consider speaking at our annual leadership summit?" I showed the email to Emma. She smiled and said, "You should do it, Dad. You helped me be brave. Now help others too." And so, I accepted. Epilogue. On the day of the summit, I stood on stage before hundreds of executives and leaders from around the world. Behind me flashed a photo, not of the wedding, not of the chaos, but of me and my daughter on a quiet dock, fishing poles in hand, peace on our faces. "My story," I began, "isn't about revenge. It's about self-respect, about what happens when we finally stop letting others write our story and start writing it ourselves." The crowd rose in applause. And as I stepped down from that stage, I knew something with perfect clarity. I hadn't just walked out of a wedding that day. I had walked into the life I was always meant to lead. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you have think about this story in the comments below. Like the story, if you think this story is justified, share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe to Lauren's story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.